What's up, guys? This is PokerBrandon. This is session 13, a $2, $3 no limit hold'em cash game table. I have ace-9 offsuit, and when the action comes to me, I'm going to open. This video is 17 significant hands, and here they are, played in a couple hours on a weekday night. There's a couple limps to me, and you can see I open up to $15. Reason being, it's about 1.33x the pro pot. What's the pro pot? Well, the pro pot is what I call the profit pot. The profit pot is the pot that is available to steal when it's your turn pre-flop. So I get two callers and we went three ways to a 7 king 2 flop. You can see I opened with ace-9 offsuit here. After two checks to me, I bet $15. That's about 33% of this pot, $50. And this bet is mainly to win the pot now, because I can always rep ace-king, and lots of players will always put the opener on ace-king. So I just tried to take it down with that bet. 10 of spades hits, under the gun checks. Now, this is a spot where I can pretty much just give up, but instead of giving up, I decide that I'm here to play poker, and I want to win this now. I size my bluff up to $50, and I want you to see the player who snap jams on me when I do that. I'm never calling here against a snap jam all in during one of my first hands that I'm playing at the session. This first hand I'm playing is just another example of how I do this a lot. Sometimes I gotta really get better at it. Is when I first sit down at a table, I tend to want to just win the first hand, and that's definitely just a mistake I gotta work on. Next hand, played a couple minutes later, I looked down at a red deuce and another red deuce. I add up to $300 before this hand so that I can play with a max. There's a small blind, big blind, and a straddle. I think that I opened to $10. So what had happened there was the dealer announced that there's a straddle when the other player to my left announced what is that $10 amount PokerBrandon put into the middle. I didn't see the straddle to my right, so I actually just limped in here by mistake. I don't show it, I remain calm and still, but now I gotta play my pocket twos as a limp. And now it's my turn because under the gun straddler just made it $56.
How much? 56.
So realizing that I just limped in, I realized that I could probably limp raise right now and my hand is gonna look extremely strong. And looking at the under the gun opener's open, when he put his chips in, he didn't look that strong. So
All in?
So it's pretty risky, but seeing all the limps behind me, I figure their weakness, and I raise to rep aces or kings.
You guys.
It folds all the way around to the under the gun straddler. Other players are talking in the middle of the hand. I am now all in for $206 effective, and
What's it called?
I get called.
Don't quit.
Hijack announces that he wants to see both of our hands. As I was watching this flop, I just didn't want to see any face cards. Any ace, any king, any over.
Who's the winner? Who's the winner? Yeah, it's queen. Oh, yeah. Maybe say that. 300.
So I got my money in with 50% equity. So my pocket twos ended up being good. My opponent did not have any pair. He had some kind of two overs. My read was correct. That was the best case scenario. If you're in situations like this, you got to be careful because some opponents will call you with pocket fives, sixes, sevens, and realistically, I wanted a fold instead of a call. Now my third significant hand that I played during the session happens at about 10 minutes later, less than that. I am buying the button. That means the button is directly to my right, and we have all these limps. Now what does Brad Owens say about limpers? You have to punish the limpers, but more so when you have pocket aces in the buying the button, basically the small blind position. If you look down, you can see that the profit pot is $18. That is the amount that I will win if I win the pot now and everybody folds. That is the way my brain thinks, and I want to write down all that information in this session video to kind of just show you exactly every number that I'm processing in my head as I'm playing poker. That is why you see all the illustrations of the position, the stack sizes, and the limps. Now you might tell yourself that, well, Brandon, you made the pot way too big. You should want to play with pocket aces, and that's true. Looking back at this hand, I do wish I would have made it maybe 1.5 to 2x the profit pot, making it about 35 or 25, $30. But I'm okay with taking the $18, and believe it or not, making a 3-bet or an open for like a squeeze type bet for like up to 3x, even up to 4x the profit pot is actually very common when you get to playing higher stakes. But quickly moving on to the next hand, there's lots of limps against me when I'm on the button at about 4:47 p.m., fourth significant hand. Profit pot is about $20. I see King Jack suited, and this time I am going to open to about 1.5x the profit pot here. That's $30 because the profit pot that I would win if I steal this is $20.
I'll follow you.
So I purposely left the volume up pretty high for the low jacks table talk there. I wanted you to hear how he was saying he's calling because other players are calling. It's important to note these types of players and how everybody is playing around you. That way you can exploit them better later. We end up going 5 ways to a 6-4-4 flop with 1 spade. It checks to the low jack, who's thinking, and he checks, and then the hijack player from earlier, he's the one who straddled. He made it 50. I jammed on him, and he called me with 2 overs. He now shoves 171 into the 6-4-4 flop. Holding King Jack, King High, I fold. I do not think there's ever a time when you want to be calling with King Jack suited on a 6-4-4 flop with the backdoor flush draw with 3 players behind you for about a pot-sized bet. My read here when hijack jammed is that he has any 6, any 4, or any pocket pair. Maybe an open-ended draw.
I feel lucky. I'm not taking that.
171.
Double chin?
So hijack is gonna get everybody to fold with 9-7 offsuit. One thing to note, he called pre-flop a 1.5 profit pot open with 9-7 offsuit. Granted, he did have the best pot odds there, but still, think about that and keep your mental notes on players like this when you play poker with them. Here I am in the no jack. The no jack seat is the +1 seat. It is the seat 1 more away from the button from the low jack. Now I open to $9, cutoff calls, button calls, and small blind call. And we're gonna go 4 ways to a flop. Holding 7-8 suited, I wanna flop big draws like heart draws and open-ended draws. In this case scenario, 4 diamonds hit the board. I could have all the best diamonds, but realistically I flop an open-ended draw. I think when a dealer sees me play, they're really not used to how still I am when I'm playing, so they usually just think I don't understand what's going on at the table. But I do. I'm just really still. I bet $13. That is 33% of the pot. The pot was $39. 13 times 3 is 39. and that is how I get my bet sizing for my continuation bet on this flop. Cutoff is going to make the call, and then small blind is going to make the call. We're going to go 3 ways to a turn. Realistically, though, I just wanted folds on that flop. The turn is a king of clubs, small blind checks, and at this point, I could still have ace, king of diamonds, could have flopped the nuts. I sized this bet up because I want folds right now, and I want to take this pot down because my showdown value is not that good if I'm up against any pair, like a 9, a 10, or a king, or if I'm up against a diamond draw with 2 overs and a straight draw. My hand is not too good. So this $40 bet, it's a little bit about twice what these players have invested into this hand, and it's to get folds. But Cutoff has other plans. Check out what he says.
It's 100.
Small blind is going to tank fold. I'm going to fold. And you might be saying, well, Brandon, you're putting a lot of money into hands and you're not winning. How is this profitable? I'm relying on fold equity. Fold equity is what I am relying on. So 6th significant hand at about 5:04 p.m. Under the gun limped in, low jack limped in, cutoff limped in. That gave me a profit pot of $14 when I saw jack 8 of diamonds. I wanted to take that $14 and I made it 20, but I got 2 callers, under the gun and the cutoff. We went 3 ways to this ace, jack, ace board. On this ace, jack, ace board, being the under the gun opener, I have all the best aces. I have quads in my range. After 2 checks, there's really no need to bet too big here. Realistically, if I had an ace, I want to bet small because I want calls. So that's what I do. I bet 25% of the pot and I get folds. And that's nice because if I would have got raised, I would have folded. And instead I win $48. Now, 7th significant hand out of 17 at about 5:44 p.m. on this weekday night. I am on the big blind. I have $3 in the pot that I can never take back. No jack lady new player, she's gonna open.
One round.
No jack player opened the pot up to $6. Low jack made the call, and I see the alpha boy, big slick ace king in the big blind. That was a raise.
Minimum raise. Minimum.
So seeing that these opponents are calling pretty light, like 9-7 offsuit, I 2x the profit pot. The profit pot is about $14 and I make it 30. I figured I'll get 1 caller. I get both, but I'm not too upset about it because I'm holding the best hand that is not a pair. Now, as I explain how I play ace king offsuit after the flop, give me your criticism in the comments. Tell me what you would have done. And you can criticize me, talk crap. It's okay. I like reading comments. Anyway, I sized this bet to what I thought was no jack's full stack. She had $30 in her hand that I did not see. I only saw about 60 on the table. So I bet 60, but she calls. And then I see the other 30 and I think, ah, shoot, I messed up. The reason I wanted to bet her whole stack was I wanted her to fold. I also wanted low jack to fold. There's no way I want to call here with ace king offsuit on a 3-9-5 board. My showdown value right now is ace high. Any pair beats me. It's very possible these guys have a pair. So I don't accomplish my mission, which was to get folds there. So if you're a CIA recruiter, probably don't come get me because I can't get my mission done. When the 3 of diamonds comes, yes, I have the option to shut down, and I see that it's okay to do that. I think it's all right. If you want to shut down here, I don't think it's the worst decision. But are you really going to fold to no jack's $29 remaining stack? No. So you're obviously going to put in at least $29 here. So if you want to win this hand, I think at this point, what you have to do is you have to at least put in $29 because you want fold equity to win this hand. So far, I told the story that I have aces or kings, and that's what I'm going to continue to do. And I try to save money by betting half of low jack stack. Basically, I want folds with this, but if low jack jams, I will fold. I will know he has a better hand. Low jack tanks, and guess what? And then he folds, and I go 1v1 with no jack. And check out what low jack said he folded. So we get low jack to fold his pair of nines. And I think that no jack has another pocket pair. I tell her I have ace high. She had ace 5 offsuit. Wow, this is a great game. She called a 3-bet pre-flop with ace 5 offsuit.
29.
The 3-bet was 5 times her open. I made it 30 when she made it 6. That is a sign of a very, very good game. Realistically, in the long run with that ace-king hand I just played, I'm gonna win lots of money, and that's how you have to view the hands that you play when you lose with ace-king in that situation, that exact situation. If that happens to you and you lose to ace 5 offsuit on that flop, it's okay, all right? In the long run, you're gonna end up being a winning player. Now, let me jump into the next hand. Hand number 8, under the gun open to $20. And when I see ace queen suited at this very lovely table, I want to size this up to just get a 1v1 with the under the gun opener. That open was a pretty big open, but I am in position and I have ace queen suited, which definitely could be better than under the gun. He could have ace jack suited. It might be likely he has ace king, but it's usually likely that I might have the best hand if he doesn't raise me pre-flop. Flop is 2-5-4. On this 2-5-4 flop, there's 1 club, and I have 2 overs. So what I also have is position, a gut shot straight draw, and a pair of balls. All of that is a great reason to continue betting. I bet 33% of this pot. The pot is about $80. I bet 25. 25 times 3 is 75. It's not 80, but it's about 33% of the pot. That is how I get my bet size. Under the gun quickly called. Turn is a 5 of diamonds. Now, when I'm playing and when I was in this hand, I'm always kind of visualizing what story have I told and what is the story that I could keep telling. Under the gun checks, and the story that so far what I've told is that I have aces, I have queens, I have an overpair of all kinds of overpairs I could have, and I could continue to tell that story or I could give up. What I choose to do is I choose to attack the pot and win. And I try to do this with another 33% pot-sized bet. The pot is $130 and I bet 45. If you ever want to get 33%, it's just 1/3. So if you divide the pot by 3, that is 33%. I'm not sure how many of you might have that question. That might sound like a very obvious question, but I'm just throwing it out there, okay? I don't know who's viewing my videos. I expect beginners to be watching. Some of you might be pros. Anyway, I bet 45 because 45 times 3 is 135. Notate how long it took under the gun here to make the call. He usually calls pretty quickly. Under the gun tank called, and then the 9 of diamonds came. At this point, I feel like I might be up against a hand like pocket 6s, 7s, 8s. I doubt he has ace king, and there is a possibility he had a diamond draw. But guess what? The diamond draw got there. Here's where it got weird though. Under the gun bet $50. He bet 50 into 219, so it's like super easy to call. It feels like he got a flush. It looks like he had a full house. But you know what? There is that little bit of chance that he called me down with like 6, 7, and I'm good. So I make the call. I was good. He announces that he had king high. He had king of hearts, jack of clubs. I want you to look at king jack and look at that board again and tell me if you think that he should have been calling me. So now that you're done with that, let's get into the next hand. No jack opens to $20. It folds around to the small blind who makes the call. She was a new player who sat down with 200. Now, I'm gonna jump ahead. I have ace king offsuit here, and being under the gun on this straddle, I wanna squeeze this money and take it down now. So what I do is I raise to about 33% of no jack stack so that I can jam any flop. Check out what no jack said. You gave me some sarcasm. Then check out what small blind does.
Really? You have pocket aces or something? Yeah. Taking forever to bet. I'll call. Okay, I'm mad. I'm calling. Whatever.
Now, when you're playing poker, if players are exhibiting frustration verbally to you, talking crap, making comments, whatever, never really ever let them get to you. You might feel like the need to say something back. I'm a big believer in I'm rubber, you're glue. Whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Just live by that at the poker table because you don't want to really give off any sort of emotion. And the one thing you can do to players who talk and verbalize their frustrations is you can just take their reads, figure out whether or not what they're saying is accurate to how they feel with the hand that they have, and just use that information to exploit them later. It's good if you're at a table playing with players who talk their thoughts out loud like that. This was interesting. Button said I am Hollywooding. If you don't know, Hollywooding is a term used to describe a poker player who is basically acting. And it's used to usually refer to a player who is acting weak when he has pocket aces or pocket kings, and he takes his time to act weak. Yeah, there are players who do that. Personally, I don't do that. I just take my time. If you really think about it, there are only benefits to taking your time at the table and taking your time with your decisions when you play poker and you're playing for money and you're playing for profit, playing cash games.
She said call, right? I said call. I think you have. You get it, you get it. You have more. This is crazy. I'm like ready to just leave.
So my opponent thought that the stack I put in there was her entire stack. She didn't really take her time and realized that she had $62 left. On a 6-3-7 flop, even though that is not the flop I'm looking for, holding ace king, 2 overs, I'm just gonna put it all in, and out of frustration she checks and then jams before I can do it.
Pocket aces? Probably not. No way. So ace king or something like that.
So no jack to my left figured it out. I had ace king offsuit. I did not show that hand. A lot of the times I will have pocket fours crushed there. In that case, I didn't. 2 minutes later, literally 2 hands later, we have a couple limps over to the hijack who opens to 12. He's the guy who called me a Hollywooder. And then cut off the lady who doubled up on me, calls that 12. And I'm in the small blind with ace queen offsuit. I figure right now is a good time to use my tilt image and 2x the profit pot right now and make it look like I'm just trying to steal the pot. Since I didn't show my hand earlier, it's possible these opponents will just think I'm going crazy and I'm on tilt with any 2 cards. So I use that to my advantage. And my bet actually makes cutoff leave the table.
I'm out of here. This is too intense. 72. 72.
You want it that bad. Go for it.
Yes, hijack. I did want it that bad. That's why I raised, and I went for it. Thank you for folding. That's what I wanted. I actually, in this circumstance, wanted folds from everybody. If I can get folds pre-flop from everybody, every single time I 2x the profit pot when it's my turn, I will never lose at poker for the rest of my life. So this play is a winning play. It's a very common play called a squeeze. But one thing I want to notate too is my raise pre-flop is not that big when you get into deeper stacked games. The profit pot to win at that point, when it was my turn, was $36. That means if I raise and I win because everybody folds, I profit $36.
Before the rake.
Yeah. You folded already? It's just us? It's just us, right? I'm gonna fold because I'm gonna leave, but I should call you. Pockets again. Okay. I'm gonna let you go. He's working. I should have put them all in.
Yeah, I
He's
would
doing good. I just wanted to show him your readers off, honey. I'll see it another time. I know. Exactly. I know.
So I get the squeeze through with ace queen, and if my opponent did actually have the balls to jam there, she would have been a 54% favorite to my 46%. So I am happier to just win that pre-flop, but I would have been happy to just run that out too as well. Okay, so moving on to the next hand, there's a straddle from a new player. About 12 minutes later, under the gun limps into my right, and I see king queen offsuit. This hand is not a hand I'm gonna limp in with. This is a hand I'm gonna open with, and I set my opening size to 2x the profit pot. So the profit to win there would have been the small blind, big blind straddle, and that limp, which added up to about $17. So I opened to 30. Small blind, he calls a lot. He makes the call. And then new player actually just lost a majority of his stack a couple hands ago. He also just makes the call. I was surprised to see that because he only had $29 behind. Not your standard decision there to just put in half your stack. Anyway, we go to a 10 jack 6 flop. Small blind checks, and I have an open-ended draw. I also have 2 overs, and I also have the opening range in this specific hand. Under the gun puts in his $29 bet. It's about 33% of the pot. It's about exactly what I would have bet if he checked. Now, seeing that he just put it all in, I figure he might have a jack or a 10, maybe a draw. And I don't want small blind in this hand. I want to go 1v1 with the gun. So I announced that I'm all in here, hoping to get a fold from the small blind. Even if my opponent under the gun has a jack, I still have an open-ended draw and 2 overs. So it's not at all a bad decision to just run it with him here.
King high. King high. King queen.
Okay, so I'm gonna take that hand down with king queen high. My opponent had king 8 high. Very odd push, but I mean, he was a short stack. Maybe he was trying the stop and go play. But very quickly before I move into this hand, I just want to notate that you should always wait to see both of your opponent's cards because information in this game is crucial to success. Moving on to hand number 12 at about 6:37 p.m. You can see a couple limps to me. You know what I'm going to do. I opened the pot up to $24. That is exactly the pro pot when it is my turn. There's $24 to steal. I make it $24. I don't expect to steal it for 24. I did expect to go 1v1, but I'm gonna go 1v4. Well, I guess 1v3. We got one guy out. That's okay. And one thing I did here was I didn't 2x the pot here because I didn't want to play so robotically and allow players to just get into this slow play mode knowing I'm gonna 2x it pre-flop every time. Flop is 2-7-6. I'm holding a sneaky top pair because I don't think these players are going to think I raised with A7 suited. I get a call from the cutoff and a couple folds.
You got me a fold of pocket pair.
Button announces that I got him to fold a pocket pair. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Now, when I'm playing No Limit Texas Hold'em, I think it is the #1 crucial element that you need to harness, and that is do not give away information for free. In poker, in this game, all we have is our information, and once our information is known, we can be exploited. This player was extremely tight at the table. He was not willing to get his money in for anything if he didn't have the nuts. He was tight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he folded pocket 8s, pocket 9s, even pocket 10s right there in that situation. He would put me on jacks, queens, kings, or aces and fold his hand. I'm not saying that this style is good or bad. I used to play and do play like this sometimes, but I will state that if I had not known how tight he was, and if I had not known how he played, if he just sat down, I would have no idea how he plays, and I would not be able to make this move. But because he just announced how he plays, I now have another tool in my arsenal to use against him if I ever get in a hand against him again. So, tip of the day, save your information. Don't talk about your information. If anything, lie about your information and lie about how you play to jumble up the brains of guys like me at the table.
You don't call, I go all day.
Think you're good? No, you're not good.
So you can see with the way I was playing at this table, I got cut off to call me with King 2 offsuit twice. He called pre-flop and he called with the very bottom pair. Not your best call there, I think, if you're trying to play for profit. I think even against me, you have to fold that, but who am I to tell anybody how to play poker? Some people gamble, some people play for profit, some people play like a fish like me. All is encouraged. Very next hand, 6:42 p.m., hand 13. There's another limp to me. People just don't quite understand that you can't limp in front of me when I'm at the table. I open things up to $36 because I'm blocking a crucial, powerful card, the alpha, and I have a 10 with it. So along with that 10, I have the button position, so I 2x the pro pot, trying to steal the profit in the middle, but I get a call from one of the tightest and a pretty good player at the table who was not doing anything wrong from what I've seen. King Jack 6 comes, and when it came, I just put my opponent on a king or a jack or a queen. I could see him calling me with king queen here, and I was just pretty nervous. When he checks it, I'm not trying to play a big pot against this player who I know is very capable of check raising me and just taking all 200 of the money I would probably put in. So I just check it down. He shows 5s. He played his hand just very standard like he has been this entire time, and I just win that with a 10. Queen 6 suited, I open. What kind of open is this? This is not a GTO open. This is an open because I have been folding for the past 20 minutes, playing a little more standard. So for hand 14, after 20 minutes of folding, I opened up this Queen 6 suited because I just want to keep the image that I'm a loose player. I don't want them to realize that I went nip mode. So after the open, I bet $13 on this Jack 8-6 flop. Since I was pretty tight for the last 20, I figure they can put me on a jack, maybe let this pot go and give it to me now. But they both call. I'm still 3 ways, and then I hit a lucky 6 on the turn. Small blind checks, under the gun checks, and now at this point I feel like I could use my image to just overbet this huge and get a call in case one of these players has a jack. The UTG player was the guy who called me with king 2 earlier, so I figure even if small blind calls, I'm gonna be good. But he folded, and then UTG, the king 2 guy, he thinks about it, but he lets it go. I take that one down at about 7:01 p.m. And moving on to the next hand at about 7:08 p.m., pretty close. Hand number 15, a couple minutes goes by. I'm in the small blind, and there is a low jack limp. A cutoff open to $7, very small, very weird. Did not see that at all, too much. And then button made the call. So I feel like this is the cutoff's way of trying to get me to not raise by opening small, but that's not gonna stop me. When I see jack king off, I 3-bet this to $20. That is the profit pot when it was my turn. I'm in the small blind, and I don't want to play against 3 guys out of position and just call, so I raise it hoping to get 1v1, but I get 1v4. Flop is 5 jack 7. I think that when I hit a jack at this table during this session, it is extremely strong because players are just gonna put me on nothing, ace high, even queen high. So I like that I hit it, and I bet for value. I bet 33% of the pot, hoping to get a call, and I get a call from the one guy I would love to get a call from. Jack hits the turn, and I check to induce a bet, but look what happens.
But you had your hand down like this. Well, you didn't do the motion, but you had your finger down. That's all. I don't know why. Yeah, he didn't do a motion. He just had his finger down.
I saw him do a motion.
So the cutoff told the dealer that he did not check in that he didn't have a turn to act, but he put his finger down like a check. I saw it. The dealer saw it. There was a little bit of talk about whether he did or not. Go back, rewind the video, look for yourself. I think it looks like a check to me. I think he was just bummed because he did at the last second see an opportunity to bluff at it after I checked, but he realized he checked too fast, and I think he just was upset he lost that opportunity. I really wish he would have bet. But let's move on to hand number 16, 7:14 p.m. on this weekday night. I am on the UTG low jack straddle position, and when one limp happens in front of me with the king 2 guy, I want to pop this up just a tiny bit with my ace 9 because it's very possible I have the best hand. I think I was about 85% sure I had the best hand at this point against him, and I'm happy to play a little bit of a bigger pot against the guy. He has $144 behind him. He checks on a 6-5-3 flop. I have a couple back doors. I can hit a straight both ways, and I have 2 overs. So I bet 33% of the pot, which is $8. And to this guy, I think $8 is something he will never fold to, regardless of what he's holding. Turn is a jack of spades. Small blind checks, and you know, I don't really have any more straight draws at this point, but because I do have 1 over the ace of clubs, and I feel like this opponent would still fold to another bet, I go ahead and bet, hoping for a fold here, and I bet $8, and he calls. I probably should have made that bigger, but at the time, I guess I thought he would fold for $8. River is an 8. And then small blind checks, and at this point, I just think I am beat. But I realize I'm holding the 9 of hearts, which does block the straight. So I make one last attempt right now to take this down because I really don't think I'm going to win at Showdown. I bet $30. It's about half pot exactly. My opponent angles me with a chip throw. Just kidding. I don't think he meant to do that. But he makes the call, and then I'm pretty sure I'm bad here. And he shows 8-10 for a rivered 8. That is a pair of 8s.
Okay, so bonus. Baby Blair, white first.
Soda with lime on
Very last hand I will analyze for you for this session video. Hand number 17. Couple folds over to the King 2 guy. He limps in. Button tight guy limps in as well. And then we have the player to my right who changed seats. He was the original new player from a couple hands ago. He limps in. And the dealer seems to want to rush everybody into playing a limped pot. I think she forgot that I was PokerBrandon, and I almost never check on the big blind with a hand I want to play. So I decide what I want to do, and I figure with this ace-4 suited, it's good enough for me to isolate one player here and potentially win the pot if it comes down to it. It's a small pot of $10, but I'll take it. So I open the pot to $20. King 2 guy makes the call. I'm hoping everybody folds behind, but I'm gonna get 2 calls from the tight guy and the new guy. We go 4 ways to a flop. Flop is 3 Jack 8, and looking at this flop, I only have a backdoor straight draw and 1 over, realistically. But that's not going to stop me from attempting to win the pre-flop money I put in. I bet $25. That's about 33%. And everybody calls, so not good at all. Not feeling good at all when I see this. And I'm just hoping to hit an ace. That does not happen. 7 of clubs comes. Probably the worst card in the deck at this point. Small blind checks, and I give up. That's a give up check for me. I'm not going to win this with the bluff, I know it, and I'm not going to win this with showdown. So I think it's important when you're playing to realize when you're not going to win and don't punt away your money. So cutoff checks behind, and did you see Button grab his chips? Look at it again. Right after the cutoff check, the Button instantly grabbed his chips, and then he slowed down. That right there is a little bit of a read. He unconsciously got excited, and then he consciously decided to try to hide his excitement by slowing down before he was going to, you know what, put all his chips in, $122 into this pot. There's no way I'm calling. I lose $45, 7:19 p.m. I sit down for a couple more minutes, and nothing really goes my way. At about 8 p.m., I decide it's time to leave when my stack is down to $620. I bought in for $300. I added on $200. I made $120. It's not the best profit, but it's a profit indeed. Thank you for watching. I'm PokerBrandon. I am out. Peace.